Okay, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. This is Marilyn Barger from Flate, and I want to welcome everyone to our short webinar to update all of us on the activities of the PathTech Life project, and that's the survey for students to find out how students get into our engineering technology degrees. So we scheduled this for only a half an hour, so I want to just get right to turning it over to Will Tyson. Just one or two notes. Please be sure you mute your microphones, and if you have questions, record them in the chat box. So the chat box is down in the lower left corner. There's a little comment bubble. Just click on that and you'll get the chat box open. You can type in a question or comment. And also this webinar will be recorded, so you can view it later, or you can contact any of us if you have additional questions. All right, so Will, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Marilyn. My name is Will Tyson. I am the principal investigator for PathTech Life, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some background about ATE, Advanced Technological Education, and the and kind of how we got to this point with PathTech Life. Now, I'm assuming most of you are familiar with ATE, so I'm only going to kind of briefly talk about it. But ATE is a funding program out of the National Science Foundation. One of the areas is targeted research and technician education. And the two missions are to simulate and support research on technician education and to build partnerships between 2-year and 4-year institutions and universities to design and conduct research and development projects. PathTech Life is the second partnership between Flate and a research team at USF. I myself am a associate professor of sociology at the University of South Florida. My broad research interests are pathways through STEM education, and I started working on this work with Flate, if you count the proposal process, about 7 years ago to look at pathways into community college STEM programs. Before that, I focused on mostly pathways out of secondary education into 4-year institutions. And so this work on community colleges was a new direction for me, and it's very much a new direction for the field of sociology of education as a whole. So one thing I'm very interested in is developing these partnerships between community colleges and folks like myself who can help kind of understand what's going on at 2-year colleges. Targeted research projects have to be partnerships between 2-year and 4-year colleges, and 2-year faculty are leaders on these projects. So Daniele is one of the PIs for the project, one of the co-PIs for the project, and Flate has an instrumental role, as you can see, in terms of hosting this webinar. It's just one example of the wonderful work that Flate does in this collaboration. This project, PathTech Life, is a full-scale research and development project. We're funded at just under $800,000 for 3 years, and you can see kind of a broad description of what these projects do. And this project definitely meets those specific goals. So targeted research and technician education seeks to advance the knowledge base of technician education programs. And this program fills a few niches within ATE. Some of these came out of a research design challenge that ATE held in 2008. I always refer to this to kind of show what folks like me who are researchers in 4-year universities can offer to community college through my research work. The white paper that came out of this meeting found 3 sets of challenges that discourage existing ATE grantees in the community colleges from pursuing targeted research on student outcomes. One is the conflation of evaluation and research. The ATPIs have a tough time distinguishing between research and evaluation, and use these terms interchangeably. One thing that we do, I focus on targeted research. That's what I do for a living. That's my specialty. And so being able to perform that role with community colleges is beneficial to everybody. I'm able to expand my knowledge base on STEM education within community colleges, and colleges are able to learn a little bit more about what's happening in your programs. The need for targeted research expertise. One of the benefits of the targeted research and technician education program is that it blends the expertise held by faculty, administrators, and community colleges with the expertise of researchers at four-year institutions. Targeted research is not the focus of most community colleges. It's not in the mission. And so being able to collaborate with folks like myself who, again, do this for a living can be mutually beneficial to all parties. When I discuss my research with AT grantees, and I've definitely get this reception when I presented the ET Forum and when I presented at High Tech this summer. NSF always wants to know about student outcomes, but we really don't know how to do the research. And I always get, this comment: we didn't know there are people out there like you who did this research. And so to me, those comments from folks in community colleges show that there's a need for the work that I'm doing here in PathTech, and the PathTech Life Survey can definitely be of service. There's a large community of folks in social science programs like myself who do NSF under research on STEM education, but a lot of them aren't doing work in community colleges. And so kind of one of my long-term goals is to help bridge that gap. And I think PathTech Life can play an integral role in doing that. Project longevity versus research interest. This is also an issue as well. In some ways, a survey like this can help extend projects, existing AT centers and projects in some ways by providing more information about student outcomes. And maybe down the road, once this project gets doing more longitudinal work, being better able to show the outcomes that your students are getting from their time in your programs. So the previous project, this is out of PathTech, the original project, was funded under the old guidelines, $1.2 million for 4 years, and it started the partnership between FLATE and USF. The objectives of the prior project were to understand recruitment and pathways in engineering technology, provide information to improve ET education, increase visibility of the programs, and provide information to help meet workforce demands. This project took place at 4 colleges in the Tampa Bay area that you can see here. And what we did in that project was look at kind of a holistic look at pathways, looking at high schools, colleges, and the local workforce. And there was a level of community engagement in that as well, as you can see in those pictures, some old pictures. So the original PathTech project was the foundation of this PathTech Life project. So there are certain benefits to understanding pathways research. And before I go into some of the specifics about the PathTech Life project, I'll pass this on to my research associate, Lakshmi Jayaram, to talk a little bit about the benefits of pathways research.
Hi, everyone. This is Lakshmi. So I wanted to share with you a little bit about how, as researchers, we're kind of approaching our data collection efforts and the kinds of findings that we hope to gain. So this idea of pathways research in, kind of the post-secondary context of education is that not only are people, I guess, in some ways, making these transitions from earlier schooling to later schooling, but oftentimes there's, maybe work in between, work experiences, family experiences. So when we study students at this level, what we often find is that there's a lot going on in their lives. It's not just about what may be happening in a classroom, but oftentimes that learning is inextricably connected with other things happening in their life, in terms of their job and what their job requirements are, their needs for promotion. Perhaps they're trying to break into a new field. And certainly in our new economy today, and the emphasis that we have on, needing workers with technical skills, we see that, as people are trying to grow families and, just move through their own life course, and into adulthood, that there are many aspects of their life that impact their decision to enroll in these programs, sort of take classes, and ultimately perhaps even complete programs or move on to even further education. So Pathways research basically takes an individual student out of the context of simply their personal achievement and places them in a broader context of understanding how education is sort of intersecting with their work life, family life, the economy, and broader society. So most research that's been done in this area finds that there's lots of different things that influence people's expectations for their attainment level. We've all heard about how girls and women have been underrepresented in STEM fields for a long time and some of the gains we're making there. But there's other aspects of our our social characteristics that really also can sometimes impact, what people expect for themselves and also what institutions might expect for their students. So speaking of institutions, can we go to the next slide here? Okay, thank you. So in terms of speaking of institutions, one question I think all of you may have is, okay, so I join this project. I, agree to administer this survey to my students. How can I learn from this? What will I gain, and how will this help me improve my program, improve or help my institution, better meet the needs of my students? So here's the ways that we see benefits and opportunities emerging from Pathways research. First of all, you will gain a better understanding for your students' background in terms of their academic background, their work background, what kind of foundation do they have to be in your program, as well as their motivation for enrolling. Is this a class they need to maybe just get to the next level at work, or is this part of a bigger plan that they have towards completing an AA or AS degree, or perhaps even moving on to a bachelor's at some point? You will find out what kinds of challenges students face in their programs, what's difficult, what comes easier. They will also learn what they find rewarding, when they feel a sense of accomplishment. Other things you could learn from, having your students participate in the PathTech Life Survey could include, learning how these other aspects of students' lives provide either difficulty or support as they progress in their studies. Sometimes families can be very supportive and kind of a pillar for students to get through their degree programs, and other times, other aspects of students' lives can actually present challenges for them when it comes to degree completion. Also, we feel that another area that our survey would help institutions is in gaining insight into students' perspectives on the transition they expect from school to work. If they're already working, how will their experiences in school enhance their work experiences? And this is important information to know, as we, sort of train students to take on, various occupational roles. It's important to know what they're hoping to gain from the experience in their programs. Finally, we think that the survey also helps us develop a more nuanced understanding of student aspirations, and not just in terms of like, okay, here's what I'd like to accomplish at school, or here's where I'd like to get at work, but in broader life context. And by that, I mean, in what ways is this experience sort of transformative for them? Maybe changing their, financial circumstances, their family circumstances, how it might even be changing their own expectations for their future as well as the next generations. So, all together, we think that kind of studying our programs in the context of a Pathways construction will help us, understand our students much better, meet their needs, as well as, help institutions increase recruitment, enrollment, retention, as well as completion of programs. Thank you.
I think we're turning it back over to Will.
Yes, yes. Back to me. I'm going to discuss a little bit of the findings from the first wave. We conducted the first wave of the PathTech Life study in April, and the survey was available for about 4 weeks. In total, we had 528 respondents from 26 colleges. We also had quite a good response rate from Florida. So I'm presenting the findings from colleges in Florida. Now, the findings that are reported in this report are the institutions that had over a 50% response rate, because those are the colleges that we know that the students who responded are more representative of that college, and so those are the ones we felt comfortable reporting on in the full report. And so this is the Florida report. These are the colleges that had a 50% response rate from the state of Florida. This is just the overview and the background of the project. Here's the entire timeline of the project. Just take a second and look at that. We are near the bottom of this list, and I'll talk about next steps after I run through the report. Here are the topics that were on the survey. I'm only going to be presenting a few of them. If you'd like me to send you a copy of the current draft of the survey, we can do so after the webinar. But we looked at a range of issues looking at academic background, college experiences, students' employment background, current employment status, their motivation for enrollment, their evaluation of the program and overall satisfaction, their personal academic goals, their career goals, and then demographic background. We recruited the colleges through ATE centers, and also Ben Reed, who will be speaking next, helped coordinate this effort. Each college that delivered a 70% response rate or higher received $250 and a findings report specific to their college. The reason why we restrict the findings report to the college to that high rate, well, first of all, it's an incentive to get a high response rate for the college. And second of all, and probably more importantly, if the college has a high response rate, then we can, be assured that the responses you're getting are representative of students in your program. All student respondents received $25 for participating in the project, and the survey took about 15 minutes. That was a very important goal of the project over the spring semester, to get the survey down from about 25 minutes to 15 minutes. And I'm very happy to say that the median time to complete the survey was right at 15 minutes and 4 seconds. So we had students from 4 program areas: engineering technology, energy and environmental technology, advanced manufacturing, and micro and nanotechnology. These were recommended by Marilyn and Daniele as kind of the 4 areas that were most similar within the 7 areas, 7 fields covered in ATE. The average age of the 74 respondents from the representative sample from Florida was 29 years old. The vast majority were male. The vast majority were also white. We look at employment and job status. We see that we have a mix between folks who are full-time and part-time students, but also a mix between those who are employed full-time and part-time as well. So the programs here in Florida draw a good mix of folks from various backgrounds. In terms of looking at motivation, we based our measures on an existing model for adult enrollment, the PRISM model, that identifies 4 specific areas of motivation: the pathway to a better life, reflective learner, synchronizing living, learning, earning, and living, and match with an academic life. The most important factors are to increase opportunities for a better life and to expand knowledge in the field. Students also say they want to work with their hands and build their tech skills. Prior educational background. The colleges service a lot of students who have prior experience in community colleges. Quite a few of them had already earned a associate's degree before starting in the program, and a good number of students had also earned a bachelor's degree or enrolled in a four-year institution before enrolling in the current program. Overall, students were generally satisfied with their programs, rating them around a 4 out of 5 in each of the categories. If you look at the top, a majority of students actually experience a positive change in different categories before they entered the program. So that's part of the motivation that they experienced before going in. You see at the top how students pay for college. There's a variety of ways that they pay for college. Students could check all that apply, and a lot of students kind of cobble together their resources from a lot of different sources. 80% of the students from Florida were aiming to complete an associate's degree. Long-term goals, most of the students had an associate's degree and bachelor's degree as part of their goals, and they also plan to stay committed to pursuing a career in their current field of study. And the majority of folks, as you can see at the bottom, said that gaining knowledge in their field, earn a higher paying job, a job that fits their interest, personal fulfillment, were reasons to stay in the stay in the program. So next steps, we're doing a webinar right now. We're going to be conducting the fall survey probably in 2 to 3 weeks. We have to finish up our small edits to the survey, go through another IRB approval. But if you're interested in participating in the survey, we will let you know when the survey will be made available. I'm going to pass it on to Ben Reed right now to discuss kind of best practices for getting students to complete the survey. And then we'll take questions and talk some more specifics about how to specifically conduct the survey. And after we take questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Hi, everyone. This is Ben Reed. I'll be your point of contact, so to speak, for distributing the survey. So we'll be talking from here through into the next spring when you receive your findings report per your college. I'd like to tell you a little bit about some of the colleges that have already gone through and posted some numbers, and then tell you about some tips and the steps in which we'll take here forth. So just for a couple of examples, AB Tech Community College had 27 responses. Columbia Gorge Community College had 34 out of 34 invited responses. Edmonds Community College up in the Pacific Northwest, they had 38 of 130. More here in Florida, Gulf Coast State College had 33 of 46 invited students. And we have Alan here on the call, and he is going to tell us a little bit about his experience. You know what? I may take this moment to ensure that we give Alan a few minutes before I get into a couple of tips and next steps. Alan, are you on?
I'm here.
Would you mind telling us about your experience?
Sure. You know, when I was contacted about the survey, my first thought was I wanted honest answers from the students. So I have a group email I sent out. I explained to them how important it was and how, I'm very new into the system, and I really wanted their feedback so that we can, improve this as we go forward. And I was very anxious to get their feedback. The other thing I did that I think was essential was I took it upon myself to go into, I was able to get into almost all of my classes and actually speak to the importance of this survey or surveys like this as we move forward. And I know some of the participants that didn't are some of those classes that I was not able to go. So I think one of the key elements might be that actually going into a classroom, speaking with them, telling them how important their voice was. And then I also asked the adjuncts if they could provide a few minutes at the end of the class so they can actually do it while they're in the class. And then, of course, the $25 didn't hurt.
Right. Agree with you there. And that's the number one response that we've seen from everybody is, okay, well, this is great. I mean, our students are excited. It only takes about 15 minutes and they're receiving $25. So it seems like the biggest winner out of this, we're getting the research, but the students, they're just enthused to get $25. Shoes, they get online, they spend 15 minutes and they get a $25 Amazon gift card. So there's really no you're not really pulling them along or pushing them into it. They're pretty excited about it for that reason. And what Alan said, that eyeball to eyeball recruiting is really important. If you can announce it to them in face rather than just getting an email about it, email is good. It gets them out there and that gives them the link in which they can click on. But if you can go in and just tell them face to face, hey, you're going to receive $25 for completing the survey, tell them about the importance of it, as Alan said, and that it'll help them get more information for your college to better serve them. It all kind of adds in there. So if you can get that eyeball to eyeball recruiting, it really does help. I want to be respectful of the time, so I'm going to kind of run through a little quicker than I anticipated on some of the tips. Just going back to what Alan said, if you can give time in class, that's the best way forward. That'll give you your best full participation. So now that's not something that PathTech Life requests and certainly doesn't mandate. However, looking at the data, it's clear that the faculty who invited their students to the survey and gave them time in class with computers had the highest response rates. So if there's that opportunity for you sometime in this semester, then that's really the best way forward.
If I can quickly interrupt, Ben,
Yes.
we also saw that the students who took it in class, meaning the data shows that a bunch of people took it at one time, those students actually completed it on average in about 12 minutes. So the time to complete the survey was significantly shorter if they were able to do it in class. So it really doesn't take a whole lot of class time to complete the survey. Sorry.
That's excellent. That's one of those ones that I had forgotten the data points, that it got down to 12 minutes, where I think our actual average was 50 minutes and 3 seconds. So they're getting this done in no time. So class time, if we can do that's the best. Another side is give a time frame for completion. We think that announcing to your students that the survey will be open for 2 weeks works best in order to keep the urgency and not let it be forgotten. But because we'll be using the PAI conference in October as the last gathering this fall to bring additional colleges into the survey, the PathTech Life survey, it'll actually be open through November. So we don't want it to appear that we're being tricky to you all, to our college partners, but rather letting you know that what we're doing, why, and what works best for distributing the survey. So we want to distribute it early in the fall, but it'll also be open that whole time through November. If you look at your calendar and you say, you know what, on October 2nd, we've got that extra time where we can go to a computer lab, spend 15 minutes, and knock this whole thing out at one time, we'd prefer that you take that side. So try to get your...
You're right on beam. We only have like 1 or 2 or 3 minutes. So were there any questions? I don't have my chat box open. Anybody have a comment or question?
Patrick Rice has a question. Does the survey require an institutional review board approval from the survey institution?
That's a great question. We've done 3 rounds of this survey so far. Essentially, it is up to your IRB. But what we've seen so far is that all the IRBs accept our IRB approval. And so we will be getting the IRB modification for this round of the survey, getting IRB approval before we release the survey. So if your IRB has any questions, you can go through Ben and refer them to me, and I can send their IRB representative our letter of approval. And usually that is sufficient.
Okay, thank you, Will. Anything else, Susan?
That was the only question.
Okay, so we're right on schedule. I want to thank everybody for attending. Again, this has been recorded, so we'll send out a link to the recording, and hopefully you'll all contact Ben. Ben, you didn't blast your contact information there, but I think it's been on the several emails. So and join us in the survey this fall, so we can get the more results we get from students, of course, the better the overall data in helping us understand what kind of students are in our programs. So I want to thank you all again, and thank Will and Ben and Lakshmi for presenting their work. And have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.